Welcome to the Synapse We podcast, networking, creative entrepreneurship, and beyond. I'm your host, Dr. Marielle Barrow.
All right. I want to say that, just generally in life, that we are born to do specific things, and that's one of the things that makes life such an exciting journey, is that sense of discovery. And so for me, I love music, and I would tell people my response to music is to dance. And from my first memory, I've always danced. I've always wanted to dance. I've always, had this joy, this response to music in and of itself. And so that quote came from that feeling. So the sense that the dance in and of itself was something that
And solutions to community problems
within me,
as well as looking at concrete methodologies and opportunities for networking across geographies, disciplines, and agencies.
My soul, my
so
body
join me every other Wednesday live on Facebook. And if you've missed the live event, you can download the Meeting Place Community app from the App Store to catch the recap.
Embodiment.
Today, as I mentioned, we have an amazing guest with us.
To this day,
and I chose to launch the podcast with Kerry, as in so many ways, she epitomizes what our intention is. And after the clip, we are going to be talking a little bit more. She performs not only as a principal ballet dancer for young, but as a young children and for their mothers. Hence our title for today's launch episode, are the dance or having this challenge about. So welcome, Kerry, being gifted in dance or in some of the area of the arts.
Thank you so much, Marielle. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
So that calling.
Yes.
So let's take a look at Kerry.
I would say not primarily in ballet, but I do
you can hear the sound
of forms, which I think is very representative of us as Caribbean people. So maybe from Jamaica, my body remembering the sound. That wonderful region, the Caribbean. So it represents us as a melting pot. So
that's wonderful.
Wonderful piece. I speak and I see memories with National Dance Theatre Company, Choke, choreographed by Orville McFarlane.
I think that I love the fact that this particular piece was in black and white, because, it's an archive in so many ways. It's a rehearsal, but the black and white to me just really brings out something so powerful, the form, and you have such amazing form. So that's one piece that we do by Kerry, but I also want to go back to another piece where it's captured on stage.
Oh, so this is a solo, as it says on screen, choreographed by Tony Wilson. Tony Wilson was also a principal member of the National Dance Theatre company I dance with.
Yes, I do remember his name from my days on campus. As a dancer, certainly not as serious as you are.
My body's actually dancing with it right now. The memory's there.
To begin this episode and hopefully other episodes with the art itself, because I find that oftentimes in the work of the creative industries, the management of it somehow distances us from the beauty and the power and the healing potential of the art form itself. And so I feel that that is really, really important to remember and to focus on in this discussion and, beyond. So, so let's get back to navigating the area of dance and the choosing of dance, that choice or that calling that you have as a young person. What was that like for you, and what advice would you give to young mothers?
Wow. It's interesting that you led with the mother, right? Because I celebrate mothers and fathers, grandparents, all extended family, because we do know that, and I still go, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes, it does.
But in my life, it was my mother that actually was that moment, and I would say this, as I said, it was like this calling. And when I think about it, I'm very excited because I actually do remember that feeling I had when I saw my first dance class. I was about 6 going on 7 when I saw, and when I say dance class, in terms of, I'd seen dance around before, etc., but we had a dance teacher that had come to my school, and I was this close up, to the class, and it was, going on. And I remember going home and asking my mom if I could go to this class. And, at the time, my parents divorced when I was really young. And so she was, working her way through life and, all these responsibilities with these 2 young kids. And, she, at the time, she had said to me, "Oh no, baby, I can't manage that right now." And I said, okay, I was my mother would tell you I was an understanding child. So I just said, okay. And I remember going back to the class. So I used to just watch the class. And I came home one day and I said to mom, I said, Mom, I'm going to show you. And I showed her all the positions, right? I went from first all the way to fifth. And then I showed her some of the movements. And I said to her, I don't know what fifth is, which, in modern dance, there's no sixth. But, I was like, sixth. And I said, but I'm gonna find out and come back and tell you. And she said to me, where did you learn that? So I told her, I watched the class and all of that. Now, I need to have this conversation back with my mom. I don't know how she managed, what she shifted, how she juggled it, but I just remember, and in kiddie times fair, it just felt like it was like from a Friday to a Monday for me. I don't know how long it was, but that's what it felt like. And I remember I didn't even have the right dance outfit. And by the right dance outfit, I mean a leotard or a pair of tights. I remember the striped shorts that I had on, and the t-shirt. And I remember being in the class and I was just overjoyed. And I want to say, my mother, I did ask her years ago, what made her make me go to that class, I didn't ask her what sacrifices she had to make. So that's the next conversation with her. But she said that, when I was speaking to her and she felt my energy, my joy, and the fact that I had learned so much just from watching the class, and that I wanted to go back, and I was taking in all of that information, she said, no, I have to send her. Yeah. And so she made that choice for me. And there are several points along my journey that I could give where my mother kind of made a pivotal step or decision for me along that journey. So for a young mother, parent, I listen. And it may not be dance, we have a lot of
it may be art.
It may be what, but I just want to say, watch, listen to your child and support them, because that's which they are born to do is what they should do, and what you should support them on that journey. And I'm sure, whether later down in this conversation or in another conversation, I will speak to how dance has impacted my life so much that I would say every single soul that comes in contact with a child who wants to pursue an area or passion in the art, please to support them. But you must watch, and you must listen, and you must hear.
Yes. And I think that exposure is so important, right? Because it was your first exposure that said to you, wait a second, there's something here, and that it connects with me. Mm-hmm. And I think as well, mentorship, especially in this particular moment where the exposure might be a little bit harder to come by. I think trying to at least reach out to someone who could be a mentor to your child could be so instrumental in their lives in terms of the direction.
So true. And you know what, when you say that, I think even because I've had also younger dancers look to me as a mentor, and I will say this, as children, we kind of choose our mentors in a way, we don't know that that's what we're doing. So for me, as a young dancer, I remember seeing older dancers in the school that I went to and thinking, I just love how she dances.
Right, and you choose those lines.
I want to be like that. And I used to sit and, watch the classes, watch the different dancers, look at, what they were doing, how they were doing it. And at some points, I would even say to them, how do you do so and so? Or how do you? So in a way, I had kind of selected in that youthful way, a mentor.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think it is very important because we and the responsibility that we have to younger persons is so important. So we have to be conscious of that, so that, when they may come with this innocent question of curiosity and also desire to also form that. Yeah, we have to be conscious of that so that we can respond as we should.
Yes. So this is a message not just for the mothers, but also for the dancers out there who may have the capacity to just take one younger dancer under your wing, show them the rope, but just dance with them, I think that is so critical in terms of the development of our children, and especially in this moment where we have young persons who are artistically gifted, but they don't have outlets. And I think in this space, particularly artistically gifted kids are having a challenging time being locked inside. So
yes, I have had so many experiences. I will tell you one or two in particular where I have noticed randomly. I've noticed in dance class, at a performance, where I've been like, I have to speak to this child's mother, and I will go to them and I said, listen, have to
that's
support. And I will even note classes that, you try this place, try here, I because I remember that feeling and would have wanted someone to do that for me too. And then and randomly I've seen them in like even the store, and I see the child dancing around, and I'm like, oh, this is what we dance. And I will speak to their parents. I will really like walk up and be like, hey, who are you? I will. And I had this one, I remember this on two separate occasions. I saw these two little girls, and their feet, they were a little turned in, right? And I said to their mom, I said, you could try to send them to a dance class, ballet or any one of those modern
because it would help
it would help with the rotation and help to especially when they're younger, and it will help to,
so that's
look
a more practical kind of, yes.
And for one of them, she literally, I saw her in a performance a year after, because she had been going to the classes. And I looked at her, I've also watched her in class, and I thought, wow. And her mother said to me, listen, this has become more than even just about what it's doing physically. She said, I have a child. She's more confident. She's so focused. Even at school, it has transferred. She's focused in her class because I noticed it as well. She's remembering, she's more outgoing, so she's talking with persons, and she loves to dance. So we found the dance for her because of even me just noticing and saying, that will help with. And it was amazing just to hear all the things that followed along. So it impacted her other academic pursuits, her social, her way of navigating the world, how she socializes. It's amazing.
It is amazing. And, Kerry Ann, one of the reasons that I connected so meaningfully with you was that for me, I did not become a professional dancer like you, but my parents actually had to move from one city to another while I was in school because I could not function in school unless I was continuing with my dance classes. So they moved for those of you in Trinidad, from Arima to Port of Spain so that I could be 5 minutes away from my dance class. So that while I was doing my CXC exams, mock exams, I was also doing my dance exams. I think I actually missed a CXC mock exam for the dance exam. It was that serious.
Right.
Because dance was so critical to my everything, growing up. And especially now, I think it is really important. And we're not just talking about dance here, we're talking about the arts in general, because for some music, to find mentors, to find those outlets, to be a priority for you to do this for your kids, because it's going to impact their lives, it's going to impact your life, and it's going to transform what they can become.
Definitely. And I will say this too. One of the things I love about the arts, right? And I'm serious. I'm an advocate, and I'm going to be talking to our regional bodies very soon about making some of those courses compulsory, because I do think, and I know this from personal experience, but I've also seen it, that the art, it really, really feeds into the development of the whole being.
Yes, it does.
Whole being. And we'll talk about this more, I'm sure, but I will tell you, I could never sit still as a child. I could never sit still. I was always up and about the place, running here, looking at this, checking this out. But drop me in a dance class.
Focused, laser focused. Everything else has fallen off. Well,
and even as an adult, like I will be in and we'll all be sitting down, and I'm the first one that knows when the choreographer or the teacher is ready. They'll say up, and I'm up, because that's
your world. That's your world. Well, that is I really wanted to start with that, because I don't want to, even though we're dealing kind of with more tertiary level, issues and more so than emerging, I think it is important to capture something for our emerging clientele as well. So I want to pivot at this point and talk about, what is the topic of this particular episode, which is the dance of information. How did statistics of all things come into your life? I mean, it seems to be the thing from, any dancer's mind or creative.
So, when I spoke about earlier, when I said dance chose me and I responded, I do believe that, and I said to you that life is this wonderful journey of discovery, right? And people and experiences come along your path to foster this development for you. So, from my primary high school, so secondary school for some, going along the way, I was never 100% sure on what I wanted to do as a career path. I liked all subjects. I loved the sciences, the arts. I was very athletic as well. So I was into sports. I did well at sports. So basically, I kind of liked everything. And so, but the one consistent thing that has stayed with me on every journey has been dance.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where when I was leaving high school, and when my mother said, did you want to go and study dance full time? And at the time I was in high school, I was fortunate to have been asked to dance with the National Dance Theatre Company, and I felt fulfilled to do that. And I said, no, I'm good, because I also have other areas of interest.
Right.
And I wanted to do a combination. My mother was right, by the way. I could have really honed in on that, but it still comes back to the dance. Now, at my school, a lot of my friends, so there were two kind of main tracks. There, law or medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I don't want to do law or medicine. I would probably lean more towards law, which is what Dad wanted me to do. And I said, but no, that's not where I'm at. So I started to research more and more. I also like math, and so I found actuarial science, and that's where I was going to go. I had two kind of teachers along the way that said, oh, but it's such a singular, insular career. I see you more, in terms of probably even as a teacher,
mm-hmm.
or giving, into some kind of a social career path. And I said, okay, but and truth be told, I also wanted to make some money. And actors
that's a good
yeah, you had to balance out the thing, the vision of, so I had to balance it out. And so I went to study actuarial science. But in my journey, they chose every course for you for that program.
Okay.
And while I enjoyed, because there was some economics, accounts, a lot of the mathematics in there, I felt along that journey of discovery that I was more interested in, I like business as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to study more international business. That's where I was leading towards as well. But I was always the love for numbers.
Mm-hmm.
It was there. And when I left university, my first job was as a statistician. And therein, it kind of came full circle, because dance and mathematics have a lot in common that persons may not know. But then statistics, I may sound like a bit of what we would say like a nerd or whatever, but honestly, information is so beautiful. It is so, I'm a constant learner. I love learning. And for me, that's information and research. So anything that I'm listening or hearing, I pick up my phone and I start. Some of my friends would laugh, because even if I'm watching a movie, a document, anything at all, I start to Google, because I need to find all these different points. And then when you find one piece of information, it takes you to something else. And then you find that and it takes you to something else. And all of a sudden, and I'm making these paths, and I'm thinking of your synapses model. And it's like this connection, and it's so wonderful. And then for me, that is a dance of movement, because I'm going here, but it may take me there, or it comes back here. And it's this wonderful navigation that I've always been kind of engaged in. So, and what I found is, even as I navigated through higher studies, and then eventually as a lecturer, administrator, and advisor for persons within the creative and cultural industries, I found that these have not become disparate conversations for me. And I'm always listening, and I have a thing like this. I'm always listening, because I'm seeing how the information connects, where's the gap, and how do we kind of merge, meet,
so that harmony,
yes,
so
exactly.
Right. And that's what I wanted to know. Right. We think of dance in terms of the vocabulary of dance, the rhythm of dance, the structure of dance. And so I was wondering how all of that comes together and jives with this, with statistics.
Right.
And so
when you think of art, I have some wonderful lecturers. I actually I'm also a graduate of Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts.
Amazing.
Yes. And I had some wonderful lecturers here as well. And we had to do a few courses. And we had movement theory and analysis taught by the wonderful Barbara Claw, founder of the School of Dance at the Edna Manley College of Visual and Performing Arts, as well as the National Dance Theatre Company. So I had to meet her in my life, obviously. And she's an amazing teacher. So we have what you call a motif.
Mm-hmm.
And a motif is whether it's like that first point, it's a gesture. It's something simple from which you build choreographic phrases, which then becomes how you then create the dance in and of itself. And then there are different structures that you use to choreograph this dance. Now, when if you think of from an information technology or math perspective, there's a difference between data and information.
Yes.
Data are the points, but information is when you put that data together to come out, perhaps if you think of data as words and information as the sentence, so that it makes sense to you in a way that how they come together, you are left away. You leave from that space more informed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the same way, we see data, but then we have to find how they relate to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't relate to each other, what is missing so that we can have that connection, And so I look at it in terms of that motif, the motif development, and then creating the phrases, and then looking at the structure to this wonderful choreography. And that's how I see and feel information. I actually feel information as well. It's not just, I remember watching a documentary once, and about how different people relate to music. And there was one person in particular that when they heard music, they saw colors.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow, that's absolutely fantastic. And so for me, I actually feel with information. So I'm always excited to be in a space where we are developing something so we have to research, investigate, put together to create something meaningful. And meaningful is always at the base, right? And I want to say audience, or the participant, or the user. And so, when we get in that space, how do we make this meaningful? How do we make those connections so that anyone who is using it or watching is also feeling and saying, identifying themselves in it and growing from it?
And if I may interject again, I think that is the potency of the artist, right? It's not just about, we have project management and we have administration, but it's not just about the hard facts and the figures. It's about that feeling and that emotion and connecting with those, to make those connections. And that it brings it back to the human level. So in one sense, like the humanization of information, I guess I see it that way. And it's so meaningful to me because when I'm excited about a project or about information and pulling it all together, I physically feel that excitement and want to get up and dance.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, makes so much sense to me, and in a sense, explaining my feelings to me. And I wonder how that, okay, so we are dance practitioners, art practitioners, and so on. How can we translate the structure of dance or the structure of art into a workplace or into another industry? How can we concretely like develop a methodology? And I've, my whole thing is about creating this transversal practice of the arts, which is exactly what we're speaking about. And I feel as though this is a role that artists need to take on, and we need to name that role. I also really believe in nomenclature. Yes. And so I've named that role the Creative Innovation Architect, the CIA. We go into an organization and we use the arts as methodologies to kind of humanize and connect and build bridges in meaningful ways for that particular story. Could you
Right. So I agree with you 100%. And I think that, one of the magical things about being an artist who is also very much a mathematician, education technologist, bringing all of those, elements together, one of the magical points is that there is no separation of, okay, all right, but this is what the data is saying. All right, but this is, the people feel this way, even though it's saying this. There has to be some marriage, because then there's something that may be missing. So the numbers may say, okay, we will be more productive if we cut staff by X. But if you cut staff by X, you may also find that your other staff may not feel very secure. They may start to leave. You may start to have a high turnover rate, which may then start to affect your production, because you may also have to bring in other persons who you have to train. And then there's that downtime that you have to train that person to now come back up. So there's so many factors that you have to consider. It may also be that you might need another approach. So when you have someone who is able to think about those various touch points from various perspectives, and one thing I will say also about artists and the process of the artist's work is that they go with the personal, that investigation of self. And if that in that investigation of self, it also means that you are going to want to investigate the subject. So I'm going into an organization, and I'm not just speaking to the managers or looking at the overall vision of the company, but I'm looking at every single stakeholder that has an input into that company. And what does that mean for those various persons? It's very important, because even with teacher education, it talks about learner-centered approaches. And what that means is I'm not walking into a space going, well, you know what, I know exactly what you guys need, and it needs to be A, B, C, D, and E. I come in with my theory, I have an idea, but I have to do my research, and I have to test it, and I have to validate it. And in those points is where I am connecting and dancing with the various stakeholders, but with the people. Because sometimes they also may tell you something, but you have to even dig a bit further to really get to the root of the matter. That's the artist. Very sensitive to not only body language, but energy. It's a very interesting thing, because I can see, I'm like, no, something else is missing. And when you get there, you're like, yes, So I do believe that there are methodologies that, I would have put into my research, as well as my teaching, as well as dance in and of itself, as well as how I structure a lot of my consultancies that are very arts-based. And I think there's a lot of validity to that. We've obviously both seen results where that's concerned, but there is still, some organizations get it, and organizations, and I'm going to go a bit more corporate. Some get it. You have a lot of heads of corporate spaces that are actually art lovers, and they get it. You have some that they're not there, and they don't necessarily understand, But the more that we as artists develop these methodologies and start to move it into what I would term non-traditional, not from our perspective, but from, a larger perspective, non-traditional areas, then the more that there will be greater understanding and buy-in, and we will see so much more development in various spaces that speak to the whole organization as this live ecosystem, that it's not just what you're doing, it's how you're doing it, it's the people, what they bring to it, not just in terms of their skills, but all those soft skills, everything that's coming into that.
Well, this is a wealth of information, but I want to toggle back to what you actually do now. You are at the Edna Manley School of the Performing and Visual Arts, a school that I wish I knew as a child existed, because I certainly would have been front and center. However, that was not my path, regrettably, but I've met you. So, tell us about what you do at the school and, what the school is doing in this regard, and what opportunities there might be for young persons to follow this path.
Okay. So at the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts, I honestly think, and like you say, I was fortunate to know of this space because of, like I said, the combination, the founders from the NDTC, some of them were founders from the school as well, and there was this wonderful relationship. And so, but there's nothing like being here for you to really get that sense. This college is so magical, this institution. It's the one space within the English-speaking Caribbean that exists like this, where all the art forms are housed together on the same campus. So we have visual arts and visual arts wide, jewelry, animation. We have sculpture, graphics, visual communication, so many different areas. We have music, drama, dance, and we also have arts management, because we recognize that as the times are changing, and it was always like this, but the knowledge became more and more, that artists need to also know how to have an understanding of business. And then we need a specialist for artist management. So we have our School of Arts Management and Humanities. And so the school offers majors within these areas. They also offer cross specializations. And we have a School of Continuing Education and Allied Programs that offer discrete courses, you can pull out, and you might say, I have an interest in painting, or I have leisure programs in dance that you can access. That's where our junior academy lies too. So programs for our youth, all the way up. So when I say it's magical, it is magical, because in every Caribbean country, there's a graduate from this space. Mm-hmm. And you will hear of persons from within those countries that have said to me, my teacher went there.
Yes.
The influence is so wide. We have a lot of touring groups from Jamaica, wonderful recording artists that when they, I go to spaces or go on tour and I see, dum, 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 dum. Those are all our students from the School of Music, backing bands and all of that, as well as lead vocalists. You have church groups. When I go to my church or other church groups, I see, graduates or current students, and I'm going, look at that, So,
I know.
The reach is so wide. What I would also like to speak of is that, the arts, the recognition of the contribution of the creative and cultural industries, it's more focused globally each year. And there's a lot of work that's being done in our Ministry of Culture as well as other partner institutions to make a business development corporation, which the college has partnerships with those various spaces as well to do mapping exercises, to look at the creative and cultural industries, to look at what input is needed, to look at how that support sector can be supported. And that's a lot of work. Under my portfolio, I also manage a small business development center because there's a recognition that it's a part of a national network, but the one at Edna Manley College of Visual and Performing Arts is focused on the creative and cultural industries. And so there's a lot of effort that is being put into this area. And then with that comes, as I've said earlier, and continue to say, is that merging of ideas and of disciplines is extremely important for you to really enrich an ecosystem. So we are approaching it not only from the knowledge of the arts in and of itself, but even the business, the policy, using the statistics, the information on which to make decisions. And to really, right now there is a need for more data, more information to be able to make those decisions. So there's a lot more analytics that we require, but at the same time, the recognition is there and the effort is there. So
right. So and that's exactly where I wanted to go with this conversation in terms of, mapping of the sector and the gaps in the sector. And you're doing that work. So let's talk about some of the innovative roles that creative practitioners could be thinking about in this regard, because it's the more we map and the more we understand what the gaps are, the more it's opening up possibilities. We spoke about one role that I've imagined, which is the creative innovation architect, where we go into organizations and we start using arts-based methodologies to together. What are some of the roles that you're thinking about?
Definitely. So as it is, information gathering is so interesting because in one of my master's programs, I had explored a model of alternative methods of gathering information that was artist-based.
Yes.
Yeah. Because there are many different ways that we can go around and gather information. So we can use regular surveys, we can use an ethnographic approach where we actually immerse ourselves, which is one of the things I would suggest for artists, that we are able we are able to become, whether it's plants within a department where we are actively going through the process, engaging, working with persons who are working on the ground at different levels. And you take this ethnographic approach and you're able to put together the data in a completely different way. There's also the sense of observation.
Yes.
A lot of persons don't really, the value of observation is so, it's a wonderful tool. I think more so the artists have more tools to be able to apply in using this methodology, and how they can then record the information that they're receiving, and to be able to put it together in a way that's meaningful. So definitely as a researcher, artists can look into that. So and also connecting. So an artist can come in because of their methodology for not just even like choreography alone. There is the sense of dramatic work. You're scripting. How do you connect the story? How do you take from one space? So there are many skills that artists,
storytelling. Yes.
Yeah. And for even the painter, your choice of your materials, how you put them together. So those are skills that artists can utilize in terms of offering their services, to pulling information together to offer a more analytical approach or a different analytical approach for organizations. One of the areas I think also a lot in change management.
Well, this is exactly what I was about to add.
Yep.
Behavioral management, change
behavioral
management,
organizational behavior. It is so important.
I also feel as though strategic development is an area that could be really, really interesting for practitioners, because it's a space of creation, right? It's a space of imagining alternatives and possibilities.
So my second job was I was a corporate planner, strategic corporate planner, and so I would definitely support that, to say how you look at mission envisioning, tasks and strategies, and how they align. It's a very artistic process. It's a very artistic process, and I believe also that methodologies to do that. It doesn't have to be just pen and paper. We can do it physically. We have had a number of sessions even here at the college for ourselves, where we apply those kind of artistic approaches to team building. What are some exercises or activities that we can use to do that? Yeah.
There's an entire entity in Trinidad that has been doing that for years. The name escapes me now, but it comes out of UE, and the founder was Danny Lindersay. It's a theater group. I'm so sorry that I don't remember. But it's been successfully doing that for years, and it uses theater as an approach to change behavior, to reorient staff, to build confidence, to build, for team building. So, but I guess one of the questions that I have is it, what's the methodology to get there? Do we take the courses and then go into the institutions to try to change them from the inside? Or do we, like this theater company that I'm speaking about, do we create the organizations, using a group of theater and others, and then try to sell our services to entities? So, I think that is a big question, especially in our society where it's less known, appreciated. How do we do that as a strategy?
So I would say this. I actually did pursue a master's program in theater for development. And that was one of my reasons for doing that as well. I wanted to apply art-based scientific approach to development issues or development needs. And so there is a type of methodology. There are skills that you learn in order to be able to apply this to social, educational, economic, and corporate needs. So there are various methodologies that you can learn and extrapolate, for various scenarios. So I would encourage, yes, you don't have to necessarily delve into it at that level per se, because you do have short courses but I wanted to go at it at a sense of mastery. So it depends on the level that you want to get to.
Yes.
Now, that being said, as an artist individual, I would say always expand your skills. One of the things that with that program, for example, it went through, like I said, the artistic, scientific approach. So it speaks to even the research, how you put together, how you get the information, how you put together the information, and how you apply a policy approach also to that.
Yes.
So
policy
as an artist,
to be one area.
Right, but as an artist, and exactly, policy making is something that artists should definitely look at getting into. Now, as an artist, I would say that what I would suggest to and support is a sense of collaboration, because you may not have all the skills, but you can, within your network, you may have someone who focuses on this area, someone focuses on that area. So perhaps like the theater group that you've mentioned, I'm sure they each play a different role. So you can either become outside a part of an organization, or within your network, build an organization that looks at various aspects or elements. Now, outside of that training, as a corporation, I would say reach out to for in the Miami College of Visual and Performing Arts, we are very good at tailoring programs for specific needs. So they could reach out to an institution like ours or to a group that specializes in that kind of work. So those are some of the things I would put forward. So definitely upskill, definitely diversify, definitely collaborate and connect, definitely have your methodologies cemented and tested so that you're able to just, reproduce and that you can extrapolate from based on the needs or the scenario.
Kerry-Ann, wonderful. Just brilliant. I am just so delighted to have the opportunity to speak with you and to connect with you. As I said, this podcast is about sharing the connections that I have made because they've been so thrilling and life-giving to me. And I want to share that joy. Just very simply, I just want to share the knowledge and hope that persons will reach out more, would network more, because it really is about sharing best practices and about collaboration and community. So Synapse We podcast, thank you for joining us on our first podcast, and it's been an absolute pleasure, Kerry-Ann, and I will definitely be seeing you on the back end with more projects.
Yes, right. And I do want to say thank you, Mariel, and to just say a special blessing to you and the work that you're doing. I think it's really wonderful and something that is needed, and I just continue to pray that so many people will be blessed from the great work that you're doing. So thank you so much for having me, and just really to everyone, continue on this wonderful journey called life and stay connected.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.